All right. Welcome, everyone, to the webinar Empowering High School Students with Free Education. I see everyone popping in. Thank you for taking the time to join us in this short yet very informative webinar to prepare work-ready high school students for rewarding careers in early childhood education. I'm Zulie Vasquez, the Senior Manager of Online Professional Development at the National Head Start Association. I'm also the author and program manager of the Child Development Associate, CDA, program at the Academy, which is part of the Pathway to Purpose initiative that we will talk about today. For those unfamiliar, the CDA is a 120-hour course that forms part of the requirements to obtain the CDA credential, certifying individuals to work as preschool teachers with children's ages 0 to 5. A little bit of my background: for over 12 years, I was deeply involved in early childhood education in a variety of roles, including preschool teacher, coach, trainer, and administrator in different leadership roles. Much of this experience has been with Head Start programs. I also had the privilege of working in the school district as a certified teacher for pre-K to third grade and as a Spanish teacher for K to 12 in at-risk communities. Now I'm honored to serve the Head Start community at this level and grateful for this diverse experience that has given me a comprehensive understanding of the challenges and opportunities in ECE, but also the critical importance of well-prepared educators in this era, providing learning experiences to our littlest learners and supporting families. Today, we're excited to introduce you to the Pathway to Purpose program. This initiative is designed to address the ECE workforce crisis by providing high school students with the skills and knowledge needed for successful careers in early childhood education. We have outstanding guest speakers today who will share their insights on how this program is being implemented in their high schools. Before we hear from them, it's my honor to introduce Dr. Deborah Bergeron, the Deputy Director of Community Engagement and Innovation. Before joining NHSA, Dr. Bergeron served as the Director of the Office of STAR. She also has an extensive experience in the K-12 world, including years as a school teacher and principal. Dr. Bergeron is the visionary behind this program for high school students, and she'll explain briefly the why behind this initiative and how your high school can benefit from this program. Without further ado, I'm excited to turn it over to Dr. B.
Thank you, Zulie. Wonderful to be here. I'm sure we have a mixed group in the audience, so I hope I'm talking to some school admin or school superintendents or CTE directors or CTE teachers. And certainly there are probably some Head Start folks in with us as well, which is wonderful too, because you could reach out to your high schools or to your superintendents or your CTE directors. As Zulie said, prior to being here at NHSA, I was at the Office of Head Start, but before that, I was a high school principal. I was ready to be a school superintendent. I taught high school and middle school, so I have a very strong secondary background. And when she authored this amazing CDA program, and we were getting accolades from the council, all I could think about was how do we support high school admin, teachers, CTE folks to easily implement an early childhood preparation program for those high school students who either A, are really interested in education in early childhood, or B, maybe you're just looking for a little purpose in their life as a 16, 17, 18-year-old in high school where things can feel very overwhelming and aimless. And sometimes my experience as a high school principal was a lot of my kiddos didn't want to come to school. They didn't feel like they had a purpose there. And that's why we call this Pathway to Purpose. I don't think someone has to have a big dream to be an early childhood educator or an educator at all to get value from the CDA process. It will at the very least make them a better parent. So I'm going to go through this with you, and I'm just going to preface this by saying I tried to set this program up thinking like a high school admin, and I tried to remove any barrier that might exist that would prevent you from offering an ECE program in your school, even if you only have one kiddo who wants to do it. So just a really quick overview of the CDA. I don't want to get too deep into what the CDA looks like. That's not really why we're here today, but just so you have an idea, these are the points of light within the CDA program that the council has prepared. You have to prepare, you have to have a GED or a high school diploma. I will tell you they have a whole high school pathway. High school students can apply for their CDA while they're still in school. They just have to graduate and they can get their certificate. They participate in 120 hours of training. That's where we come in. I'll talk about that in a minute. But they've also got to have some practicum time, just like the student teacher. And those 480 hours can be done while they're in high school. Head Start programs all over the country are happy to welcome you into their classrooms. If you don't have ECE on your campus, or your students just want to experience the highest quality programming out there that is serving some of our most vulnerable populations. So the experience in a Head Start program is going to give high school students exposure to the most diverse, highest need population, which coming out of that, you're pretty much ready to work anywhere. There's portfolio preparation. Our program builds the portfolio for the student as they're going through it. If you could stay on that last slide real quick, Zuli. Then they go through the application, they demonstrate they can do it, and they get their certificate. And with our partnership with National University, they'll end up with college credit. So that's just a really high, quick overview. All right, you can move along, Zuli. And the program that we offer here at the Academy was really built for Head Start folks. We're the Head Start Association. We serve our programs and their staff. And what makes our program unique, put up against any other CDA program out there, is that it's very highly approved by the council. I know Dr. Moore very well and worked with him to make sure that we were really producing something of high quality. There's a lot of asynchronous material out there. I ran a high school that had a whole asynchronous learning lab. Some of it was great and some of it was garbage. And I wanted to make sure that this wasn't just a quick sit and check the box, get your certificate. They're really learning. Zuli made sure of that. It's very interactive. It is self-paced, but it is rigorous. It's aligned with the portfolio. So your student is actually doing the modules, writing the portfolio, doing the modules, writing the portfolio. So when they're done, as long as they've had some guidance with the writing and someone checking it, their portfolio should be done as well. It definitely addresses the issues around DEI. Head Start is a very diverse program serving children living in poverty. It's a natural part of what we do, so it's very important. It's part of that. We have, of course, your early Head Start programs are there to help your students to support your CTE program in whatever way you need. We deliver digital certificates to students, which live with them for their lifetime. They'll get a digital portfolio with completion. That's something they can use well beyond their CDA if they choose to. And I have here, it's extremely affordable. It's better than that. It's free. So I'll talk about that in a minute. You can move on, Zuli. I do want to just make sure you're aware, especially for my superintendents in the house, my high school principals. I know you care about your students when they cross that graduation stage, but I also know you're saying, hey, what's next? How am I preparing them for the next step? Our CDA is linked to National University. National University created a BA in early childhood specifically for our purpose. The students start with 9 free credits. Those are the highlighted ones here. And then they can do a stair-stepped BA where they only take one class at a time. They can work while they're in school. This is not for your traditional college student who wants to move to campus and be in a frat and play a sport. This is for students who are graduating who have to work, but they still want to get a bachelor's degree. And they can do both of those things. And they've also given us access to special pricing so that anyone Pell eligible get their BA for free. So the pricing is such that it aligns with Pell so that the students know that they have a pathway to a bachelor's degree. Because we do love the CDA. We think it's a great preparation, but we think it's step one to a much bigger career. All right, what's next, Zuli? I'm doing this quick. This is our pathway to purpose. So when I was thinking like a principal, I said, what is in the way? Dollars, it's got to be affordable for people. It has to be attainable for high school students. Our program is very interactive. It's not video heavy in a lecture sense. In other words, they're not just sitting watching lectured video and then taking a test. It's interactive games and activities, real footage from Head Start classrooms, things like that. And it's very accessible. You can do it on your phone, you can do it on your laptop, you can do it on a PC, whatever floats your boat. And so I feel like this gets all the barriers out of the way from the things that might prevent you from being able to do early childhood in your school. I was in a very small high school. We could not offer early childhood at the time because I didn't have enough kids interested. So I couldn't put a classroom aside. I couldn't hire a teacher. You don't need to do any of those things here. You just need a teacher of record, and you could have 2 or 3 kids enroll in your whole district, and that would be fine. All right, what's next, Zuli? This just talks about the special program that we have in partnership with Harmony. They have donated 200 free curriculum slots to high school students for the 24-25 school year, and I have 200 in the bank for the 25-26 school year, because this is about long-term pipeline building as far as I'm concerned. And so we are preparing to make it easy for high schools to get high quality early childhood preparation into the hands of their high school students. And we have about just over half of those slots are full. It's starting to really pick up. I think we have 7 or 8 states participating, but we do still have about 90 slots left. And I would love to have every single one of them filled this year, and know that in the spring, we will have 200 new ECE potential teachers out there. So very exciting. And then I think that's it. I think those are my slides, Zuli. Is that right? I just kind of wanted to give you the overview of the program. And I know that's fast and furious, but my real hope today is to tap into a couple of testimonials for you. I have 2 very special people here with me, Dr. Summer Schultz from Brookings in South Dakota, and Travis Lape, who is also from South Dakota and works with Educators Rising. And when I came up with this idea, Dr. Schultz and I were part of an early childhood learning cohort with the Association of Superintendents. And I was talking about it at a meeting. She said, count me in, let me figure out how I can support. And so we started providing our curriculum to one of her classrooms, just one in South Dakota. And from there, Travis got in touch with us, and the entire state of South Dakota is now on board. I see registrations from high school kiddos in South Dakota every day come through my mailbox, which is great. I want to just highlight, as I introduce them, they're going to talk a little bit about their experience, just so that those of you in the school system out there, you don't need to hear it from me, you need to hear it from people who are in the trenches making this work. I do think this kind of a program is particularly ideal for small systems and for rural systems. Anybody can use it. We welcome all, but I do think it's those school systems and schools that don't have the capacity or the resources, and they need to try to do more creative programming in order to meet their high school students' needs. So with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Summer Schultz from Brookings and let her talk a little bit about her experience, and then we're going to hear from Travis Lape.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me here today. Just to preface, if you want to get something done in South Dakota and it has to do with students or teaching, you just have to call Travis, which he's like, gosh, that was the biggest thing I did after Deb and I quit talking that day, was to start the conversation with Travis. And you all have those people in your states and in your communities that know how to just break barriers and get things done. And one of the things that Deb didn't say was that when we originally looked at some different options, and I will say there were always barriers to some of the other CDA opportunities for our high school students that we first started with and still have going on. But even in a school, my district is Brookings, South Dakota, and we're a university district community with almost 4,000 students. And even then, making the schedule, those barriers still existed for my students. And so being able to go with this program, this specific program, starting this year, we now have around 10 students who will be participating in this first group of cohort because they can fit it in. I have students who have full loads still doing it, not even during a class time, and then others who have a little bit more flexibility in their schedule. And then we've been able to also build in the internship piece with their schedule for those working hours that they need also. And so it really has been a game changer to get this particular curriculum. And I'll be honest, the reason I didn't want to originally look at an online type system was I did worry about students learning this important of work online. But knowing Deb and knowing some of her non-negotiables and what she wanted in the curriculum and what Head Start has put into it and how the modules line up with the portfolio work, um, I think it's going to just make all of those pieces come together that were so important.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're looking forward to working with your students and with the teachers and figuring out how to streamline everything. I will just say before I turn over to Travis, one of the things we learned last year with our one classroom sort of pilot was the teachers or someone at the school has to have some really good insight as to how the kids are doing. And so we actually made a huge change last year and completely upended our LMS and put everything on an LMS that was more friendly to administrators. So now when your school signs up, you will have an administrator at your school, probably a teacher, but depending, it can be anybody you want. And if you have 30 kids enrolled in the program, they can go on daily and see how the kids are doing and keep up with that. So that was one change we made in response to the pilot last year. So we think that that part of it will run really smoothly, and we're very interested in feedback. Travis.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And Dr. Schultz, you're too kind with your comments. Oh, there we go. So yeah, for us, it was really a no-brainer when Dr. Schultz came back from her conference and said, hey, how can we get high school kids involved? Our focus as an organization in 2018 when we started was really focused on K-12 education. We needed to recruit teachers in our state. We needed to look at all aspects of education, from school psychs to counselors to bus drivers to our food service. And the one area that we just did not put a lot of energy into, and some of that I would blame on just my background, was early childhood. Like, we didn't talk about what are we doing in the early childhood space for our kids that want to go that direction. So when Dr. Schultz came back and said, hey, what about the CDA? What do you think about this? Could we get high school kids that are part of Ed Rising to be, looking at this as an option? I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. And so we had to go through some barriers. One of those was curriculum. We struggled in South Dakota to try to figure out what that was going to look like. Some of our schools have FACS programs, so they have a certified FACS teacher. The council has opened that up, that if you take Human Development 1, 2, and then some schools offer Human Development 3, that would suffice for the curriculum that we're talking about today, if you have that certified teacher. But in some of our rural schools in South Dakota, that's not an option. Even some of our bigger schools have had to make some tough decisions, and we don't have FACS teachers. We don't have FACS teachers going into the profession, so we don't have FACS teachers to hire when we have an opening. So that became a barrier. So then we said, okay, what do we have in South Dakota that we could offer? We partnered with a group that does a lot of our CDA training at the adult level. They offered it 2 days a week, 90 minutes. Kids had a live Zoom with a live teacher. I had the same concern that Dr. Schultz did, this online, like, what's this going to look like? But our high school trialed the curriculum and really got to see it, got to see the value in it. There are so many little checkpoints, even to the point where kids got frustrated because they couldn't move on because they didn't do all the work that was on the page that was the checks and balance. So from a curricular standpoint, I was very thankful that those checks and balances were in place. There was some barriers, as Dr. B talked about here, of like, we couldn't see where kids were at or what they're doing. So we love the idea that this is going to change and be different this year. But we still had that barrier last year with this idea that kids were taking this course 2 days a week, had to be live on Zoom. And we were like, we got to do something different. And so really came back to Dr. B and Zuli and the team and just said, is there some way we can get the curriculum to be available to all of our kids? What does that look like? And they went out and did their work, and sure enough, ended up getting 200 licenses so that kids anywhere can do it. We got it out to all of our South Dakota members and said, hey, if you're interested in early childhood, here's an opportunity. Here's a great path forward. What we like is that the schools that have joined that, we've now got a cohort of kids that we can connect together around early childhood. What we have seen on the Educators Rising side of things, when we do events, when we bring kids together that are passionate about the same thing, energy starts to build in them, excuse me, and in what we're doing. So the same idea goes here with the early childhood. We want to bring those kids together. We want to have this cohort understand that they're part of something special, building to something bigger. And Dr. B is 100% right. The CDA is just the starting point. What I tell our administrators in South Dakota, the CDA is the same thing in healthcare that the healthcare field has with the CNA. The CNA is the entry point to healthcare. No matter what you're going to do in healthcare, you're going to want the CNA because you're going to want some of that patient care hours. You're going to want some of that ground floor work so that when you're a doctor and you're working with nurses and CNAs and others, you understand, you know where they're coming from and you have a different perspective. Same thing with our CDA. The CDA is the ground floor. For some kids, that may be where they go and that's what they want to do. And early childhood, great. But we want to open up the door to that bachelor's of like, here's what you could do. Here's the opportunities. Maybe it's an associate's right away. And then they come back and get their bachelor's. We want that to be an opportunity for kids. And so working with the National Head Start and working with the team there, it's been remarkable how much progress we have made in the last 12 months when we really last fall at this time, we're just talking about one class, testing out the curriculum, trial and erroring some of the tech pieces to now truly have this option open for all kids anywhere, no matter the barrier. And as Dr. B said, it's free. You got one kid, that's one more kid in your community that's getting really high quality education tools in their toolbox, and then potentially coming back to their community to start an early childhood center, maybe a preschool, a daycare, really working in building that community piece. So from South Dakota, from our organization of Educators Rising, we are thankful for the National Head Start for going along with the journey on us, allowing us to be a part of the conversation constantly, and then continuing to ask the what if question, like what if we did this, or what if this happens? So super excited about what is open now and excited to see where the cohort goes this year.
Thank you, Travis. I, first of all, love hearing about that kind of frustration. We don't really want to frustrate people, but we really want kids and all of our learners to go through the material and not have the option to just click through. That was a really big deal to me. The other thing I just want to mention is it was really interesting. This whole project is not a bad example of what happens when you kind of just all come together for this good purpose, because I didn't know how we were going to be able to fund this. And, you know, when you have something that a funder can see and they can visualize the outcome, it's not that hard. And that is really what this is. These are folks who are so excited to see these students just learn more about this field, whether they become professional educators or not. We all have journeys that we take. They can take a turn, but it is a really good place to start. So love that we're able to do that. And I do want to address a question in the chat from Julia about if we already offer human development, is there any relevance here? We actually, last year, the classroom that used our curriculum already had, it was a human development class, but what they did is they used this curriculum to drive the instruction. And then what that ends up doing is aligning so beautifully with the CDA that any of those students who do want to get the CDA, they've got their portfolio done, they are well positioned to do it. If you take random human development curriculum, I'm sure the pieces are in there. I'm very sure that's why the council's willing to count that as those 120 hours. But it isn't designed to have that be the endpoint. And I think that's the difference, is that this is just super crafted toward that. And so they used it as their supplemental curriculum, I guess is the way that I would word that. And the kids were able to do it online at their own pace, but the teacher then was able to put some sort of wraparound frameworks around these and have conversations about what about active supervision? What do you do if this happens in a classroom? And then they go do their practicum work, bring it back to the classroom, and they have deeper learning going on there. Are there any other questions in the chat, Zuli, that you think we should address to the groups? I'm trying to, is the portfolio? Yes, the portfolio is the hardest. It's absolutely the biggest barrier. So the curriculum itself, again, you do a module, you write a portfolio entry, you're done. You do a module, you write the portfolio. When you're done with all of the modules, your portfolio should be finished. The important part there is that a teacher is guiding them. Some of our students are going to struggle with writing, and they might need to work on some of that.
Deb, I'm just one of the things that we're setting up for that, and we are fortunate to be in a town that has some of these opportunities for adults. But we're having someone come in and just show those students what a portfolio looks like, what a finished portfolio looks like, just to get it in their heads a little bit also. And so that is one of the things we're doing this fall.
That is great for you to share with us, Dr. Schultz. And I would say to everybody on this call, if you aren't lucky enough to be in a community like that, where you have those resources, let us know. We have those resources and we're happy to work with you. I don't think there's a single community out there where there isn't a Head Start within some reach. And they are very excited about this program because it does exactly what we need to be doing, which is building our pipeline earlier than after graduation. So they're happy to reach out and be a resource and be your support. I saw someone on here that said they're from Head Start, but they're building a relationship with their high school, which is what we're really hoping happens. Any other questions from the folks on the call? Feel free to unmute or put it in the chat or whatever. I do want to, I'm going to share my email here in the chat. I am very available. Just email me and I will set up a meeting with you if it's easier to talk offline about your specific situation. We're pretty flexible. And, you know, I hope there are folks on the call who will send us some kiddos. We're very excited. And I want to, again, thank Zuli for her incredible work on this program. It is changing the landscape of the future of early childhood, which is very exciting. And I really want to thank Dr. Schultz and Travis for taking time out of your busy day to be here. You all are wonderful partners, and we're very excited to see how South Dakota does this year. You definitely have the most registrants right now, South Dakota in the lead. So thank you very much, everybody, for being here. We did record this. We'll send you the recording. If that helps you with a school board or a superintendent, you can show it to them so they can see what's going on. But if you have any questions, give us a call. We're happy to set up a meeting. Have a great day.